Fast feet, fast feet, fast feet. Come on. Keep breathing. Come on. Almost there.
So this is what I usually have for breakfast. 4 eggs, piece of toast, a bit of spinach, and some milk. What's up, everyone? It's Isaac from Hunger Smash Fitness. So put the video up of me eating breakfast. That is what I usually eat for breakfast. Usually it's between 4 to 6 eggs, somewhere in that range. And then usually I try and have some greens with it, some spinach or something like that, and some carbs. Try and balance it out a little bit. But I wanted to say, first of all, that I dislike all of the Instagram models posting their foods on their profiles all the time. Because I feel like people allow that to carry too much weight. So it creates an unrealistic expectation, on unrealistic view of food, basically. Because these people are saying, oh, this is all I eat. But they're not showing the cheat days that they might have. They're not showing everything else that's going into it. It's just giving a very brief, filtered snapshot of their life. So I don't exactly care for that. And I think that instead of always trying to figure out what the Instagram models are doing, or what so-and-so is doing, you need to realize that diet is going to be a little bit different for everyone. Everyone has different needs. Everybody handles sugars differently, or gluten, lactose, etc. So you can't just do one diet across the board. And I'm not a nutritionist. This is just from my own experience. This is what I've read on my own and what I've come to. So if you actually want a decent diet and everything, go and hire a nutritionist. Go and find someone and talk to them about it. I will say, I don't think it's healthy to be eating the exact same thing every day. There are certain circumstances where that can work, that can be efficient. But it traps you into it. So, I mean, even from the social aspect, where it makes it awkward for other people, where you're bringing your food with you everywhere that you go, and you're saying, oh, well, this is all I'm allowed to eat between 5 and 8 p.m. or whatever. So from that aspect, it makes it uncomfortable for everyone else. It can also just make it very difficult to be able to have a flexible diet. You don't want to get trapped into that, because then if you are unable to find that one source, that one slice of salmon that you eat for dinner every night or something, you won't know what to do. So I think that instead, people should really focus on having, instead of that approach, people should have a understanding of food and a knowledge of what the food is, so that then as different meals come along, you can know, well, okay, well, for this one I can eat X, for this one I can eat this much, and have that instead, so that you have more of that flexibility, more of that leeway without going over. So with the super strict dieting and stuff, you really only find that realistically with bodybuilders before a show, something more along those lines. And oftentimes after the show, they're binging, they're gaining all the weight back, which is what you usually find with people who diet. When you have someone who diets really hard for a long time, and then all of a sudden they stop, usually they binge. They go back the other direction, because as soon as they break that cycle, they're like, well, day's ruined. I might as well just go crazy now. And then they gain all the weight back. So instead of holding that super strict meal plan, I think it's much better and much healthier to just have an understanding of what the food is, what it's doing, what you're getting from the food, and then find ways to fill those needs. So instead of incessant meal planning, focus on the food value. One of the things that I really like to use, I use MyFitnessPal, And I don't have a partnership or anything with them, but that's just the app that I usually use. And I like to use MyFitnessPal, and I'll just go through it every once in a while, and I'll input all the food that I'm eating just to check and see, okay, am I still generally about where I should be? And that makes it nice, because then you can kind of feel throughout the day how you should be feeling. And then you get accustomed to that, and then go for a couple weeks or a couple months without doing it. Yeah, so I think that's a big point. The DRI, I looked this up, the dietary reference intake for protein in the US, they recommend 0.8 grams per kilogram body weight, which is 0.36 grams per pound of body weight. And I think that is ridiculously low. If you are doing any sort of lifting, you are going to be using energy, creating micro tears in the muscles and everything, which the muscles then need to be repaired. If you do not have the protein, if you do not have the amino acids and everything in the body, then you're not going to be recovering the same. You're not going to build muscle. It's going to be much, much more difficult to build muscle. So one of the things that I found several years back, probably 10 years back or so now, Christian Thibodeau, I don't exactly know how to say his last name, and I don't want to slaughter it too bad. But he is one of the top coaches in the world for athletes and bodybuilders. And he has been recommending 1 to 1.25 grams per pound for mass gain, and 1.25 to 1.5 grams per pound when cutting. So that's drastically higher than what the DRI is. What I found is that when I'm actually hitting those protein recommendations, I feel phenomenal. I recover much, much more quickly. I build muscle much faster. And I'm not putting on a lot of fat. I'm not putting on a lot of excess body weight. Whereas when I'm not hitting those, oftentimes protein is much more, it has a much higher satiety, so it makes you feel full a lot longer than carbs, or fats can also make you feel full too, but carbs in particular are a culprit for not really satisfying you. And that's a whole other video. But when I'm hitting those protein goals, then I'm generally doing much better in the gym, in life in general. So that's one thing that I really wanted to talk about. If you're really interested, you could look up Christian Thibodeau. I can post his name on the video too, so you know how to spell it. And just look up some of his articles, some of his recommendations for it. He has some good stuff out. And then the other thing I wanted to talk about. So several people have mentioned, what do I do with lifting? How do I do my food and everything with working out? So I try to eat about 1 to 2.5 hours before the gym. So if it's going to be a longer day, if it's a Saturday and I know it's going to be the whole afternoon, 4 hours or longer in the gym working out, I will try to have a big meal. If I'm going to work out at 3, probably try and have a big meal at like 1:30. Try and really fill myself up, so that then when I go to the gym, I have lots of energy. If I'm working out at the end of the day, like after working all day, it's a little bit harder because usually I'm not getting dinner before I go to the gym. So instead, I'm going to go from work to the gym. And so if that's the case, I'll usually try and snack on like mixed nuts, something with like protein and fat, stuff like that. So pepperoni sticks, beef jerky, things like that, about 2 hours before. And then about half hour or an hour before, then I'll try and eat like an apple, some other stuff with some carbs and stuff for energy before I go to the gym. And usually if I'm working out on an evening during the week, I'm not going to be in the gym near as long, hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. So usually that works all right for me. If I can be snacking some high protein, high fat stuff about 2 hours before, and then about 30 minutes to an hour before, if I can just have a bunch of carbs and then go. And then usually I feel pretty good with that. That's just what I do. Again, everyone handles stuff differently. So everyone's going to be a little bit different before they go to the gym. They're going to react differently. So keep that in mind. Play with it yourself. See how you feel best. What handles. If you're going to be doing a bunch of HIIT workouts, high intensity interval training, you don't want to be eating a ton right before the gym because you're probably going to throw it all back up. So keep stuff like that in mind. If you know that you're going to be working out hard in some manner and there's the chance of you throwing it up, try and pick something that doesn't taste too bad coming back up as it did going back down. So anyways, that's about all for today. If you have any questions or comments, make sure to comment on the video below. Please always like and subscribe. Helps me out a ton. Let me know what else you'd like to hear about. So anyways, that is all for today. And I hope that you have a wonderful week. Try and avoid getting the coronavirus. Sounds like that's all we hear about in the media right now. So anyways, I hope that you have a wonderful one and try to always improve that 1%.